Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I would like to welcome you this evening, 2023 City of Gloucester Candidate Forum, and it is presented by the Hello, hello. Welcome. My name is Bob Visnick. I flew in this morning from Rockport to moderate this debate. I'd like to thank the Gloucester Stage Company. It's great to have the microphone raised for me. I like that. And the 1623 Studios for putting on this event. As you know, democracy is a crucial thing, and the most important task citizens can do is become educated about the issues and the candidates, and then get out and vote. So I'd like to thank all of you for participating this evening, and thank you to the candidates. I will explain the procedure here, and then we will get started. I will ask you to shut off, please, or silence your cell phones as we get started. The order of speaking is going to be determined by a coin flip. I don't have a coin. If we will flip it. The winner of the coin toss will have the choice of being the first to answer the opening question or the last to make a closing statement. The order of questioning will then alternate between the candidates following the opening question. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Ah, I'll take your coin. But thank you. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question and then 30 seconds for a follow-up. We have a timekeeper, Cynthia Bierley, will track the time and will alert me when the time limits are approaching. At my sole discretion, I will give time for additional elaboration. And then we will have 90 seconds to make a closing statement. There will be time, we think, for about 5 to 7 questions. And the questions have been developed by the Greater Chambers Government Affairs Council with input from the community, and we have a question this evening from a Gloucester High School student. So, Mary Ellen, you're closest, and the candidates have graciously allowed me to address them by their first name, so that's what we'll do. We'll be nice and informal here. Mary Ellen, heads or tails? So you get the first question.
No, I want to close that off.
Okay. Greg, you get the first question.
Awesome.
So, we are stuck in line at Long Beach Dairy Maid waiting to get an ice cream. We introduce ourselves to one another. I tell you that I have just decided to move back to Gloucester from Rockport, but I know nothing about the candidates or the upcoming election, and you tell me that you are running. And I say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself and why I should vote for you.
Okay. They don't get the news in Rockport, apparently. So about myself, I'm born and raised in Gloucester. As far as my qualifications for this, I spent 8 years on the school committee. The last term I was the chairman. I spent 6 years on the city council, 2 terms as the Ward 5 city councilor, and 1 term as an at-large city councilor. I took some time off, became a musician. Well, I always was. I think I was pretty good. But I enjoyed playing in bands, but then a couple of years ago, I decided it was time to get back in the race. So I ran for mayor, and I've been the mayor for the last 22 months. Why they should vote for me for re-election is because we kept our focus on the city's needs today and the needs for tomorrow. We came in here, like most mayors, inheriting things that were unfinished, and we jumped right in to finish those. The Stage 4 part, sorry, the Green Street playground, and the softball field, the Magnolia Pier. We had a lot of unfinished business, but we also had some crazy things that happened that we were able to address quickly. Is this going in and out, or is it me? And it was things like a manhole cover explosion, a forest fire, a water main break. But we were able to keep our eye on the ball and look forward with things like the parking reservation system at the beach, which those people at Long Beach would benefit from, and the kicking off comprehensive planning initiative, basically our new master plan, which is going to give us a 10-year outlook of what our vision is for this city. So those are the reasons that I should be reelected, because I think of Gloucester not for today, but for tomorrow as well.
Okay. Thank you. Mary Ellen, the same question to you. And what type of ice cream do you like, by the way?
That's the first thing I was going to ask is what kind of ice cream are you going to get? I would introduce myself first. Usually I've done this several times by people that are coming into town, and I like to ask them about them and what brought them to this area to give them a better idea of welcoming them to our fine town. I usually start with, I am a daughter of Gloucester, born and raised here, and my dad was a fisherman, as was my grandfather and great-grandfather. And I left after high school to go get a good education, and then landed in Washington, where I spent my career teaching and consulting to the federal government. That I learned a lot while I was away, and I grew significantly in both intellect and capabilities. I served a number of different companies all over this world, and had a great time doing it, met all kinds of people from all kinds of places, and I'm so happy to come home. And a good reason to think about electing me is just a outsider's view for someone who's been on the inside of Gloucester as a family member my whole life. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. So this second question will go to you, Mary Ellen. And it's about downtown revitalization. So Gloucester continues to experience a revitalization in the downtown district. This includes working with the Downtown Merchants Association, the Greater Chamber of Commerce, Discover Gloucester, as well as exploring the possibility of a creation of a business improvement district. Please share your vision, including providing specific ideas for making Gloucester's downtown and villages, including Magnolia, Lanesville, and Rocky Neck, more welcoming and accessible for residents and visitors to support and encourage shopping and dining locally.
That's a great question, with a lot of questions inside of it. So I have had the great privilege of spending the last couple of weeks talking to every merchant downtown and getting a good sense of why they're down there, what made them open their shop downtown, what kind of business they're doing as far as are they doing well, are they having struggles, what was it like to set up the business, and I learned a lot from them. I also learned some of their challenges, which was helpful. They were really excited that I was interested, as they pointed out. They didn't think that it really mattered to anybody, and they were grateful that I was visiting with them. There were a wide variety, and some of the businesses were surprised and hoped for more retail establishments. They would like to see fewer restaurants, which I was kind of shocked by that. I thought we have a great bustling restaurant downtown. As far as the outskirt retail and other businesses there, I've interacted with several of them through my sister's companies and through mine as well. And what's interesting is we have an enormous variety of businesses across this city, both large employers and very small, from the Whale, well, I can't think of the name, but in Magnolia, that's a great little coffee shop, to the stainless steel fabrication plants that we have downtown. And I, more than anything, want to see a revitalization of our economic prosperity across the entire city, not just downtown, but across the entire city.
Thank you. The question was a mouthful, so if you want me to repeat it, I will, and if not,
I think I'll wing it.
Okay.
You mentioned the bid, the Business Improvement District. That's one of the things that we're able to get a grant to do some, to try to kick this off. The whole idea of the bid is that the businesses and the owners, because not all businesses are owners, they're tenants, is to work with them on a voluntary tax basis that will help fund things that are outside the scope of what the city does. So we've been working on that for months. We have got a lot of interest in it. More to come later on that one. We're working on wayfinding, unified wayfinding around the city. If you go around the city, you'll see remnants of Mayor Toby, who was out here, the maroon line that used to be one of the efforts they made for to promote the city. You'll see various different signage throughout the city that doesn't match. So we're looking to put that into one unified signage system to lead people from the historic waterfront up to Main Street, as well as pointing them towards places like Lexington Ave and Magnolia and out to Lanesville. We've got a parking study that is wrapping up that's going to give us some guidance on what things we might be able to do. And we have to remember that tourism equals business. So we work closely with Discover Gloucester through some funding, and we have a staff member who's a member of their board. And they've, Gloucester is on the map, thankfully, with things like CODA and effects of the perfect storm and wicked tuna. And Discover Gloucester has done a terrific job of getting our message out there. The analytics from their website are amazing. So we're working on things like the pop-up shops, which are in the old location. We've had 4 sets of businesses in there. Most of them have been women-owned. We've got 2 more coming. Stay tuned for that. So we are constantly trying to revitalize and add new things, expand on existing things, and as I said, trying to get the message spread to the outskirts too for other villages.
Okay. Thank you. Mary Ellen, do you want a few extra moments?
Well, yeah, I just want to speak to when I've run into tourists and having them wonder what to do next. I'd like to see some sort of a welcome map or cool things to go see around our city so that it would actually drive them to our area businesses, not just on Main Street, but also in the outer skirts, Magnolia and Lanesville. There are just really fun places to go and places to spend your money all over Gloucester, and I don't think that we promote that quite enough. So I'd like to see more of that to help them out and let them know that we're behind them as a city, that we want to see them thrive.
Yeah, all I would add is I didn't mention the sofas. If you've seen those large monoliths around town with the video screens on it, that was another grant opportunity we had, and we've got 4 of those, I believe, around the city that have things like weather reports, scheduling for meetings, and there's a lot more that can be done, and those are indeed run by Discover Gloucester. So we are continuing to spread the good word of Gloucester businesses throughout the 5 wards.
Okay, this next question is about housing. And Greg, I think you're going to go first on this one. With the lack of availability of housing, including, of course, affordable housing, please share your vision, including strategies to create more affordable housing in Gloucester.
Sure. So one thing that I've done from day one in office was first to revitalize the Affordable Housing Trust. Their membership had declined. I don't even know if they had enough people for a quorum, but we've got a full slate of people on there with backgrounds in real estate and banking and affordable housing especially. We've also given them a funding source. There had been a commitment to put the Airbnb local option tax into the Affordable Housing Trust. It hadn't happened. My first year, we did put $55,000 in. Not a ton of money, but it's a starting point. My second year, we put about $66,000 in, and we put an additional $1.5 million from ARPA. So we are taking this very seriously. And the trust, as I said, they are very motivated. They're working on their strategic plan. I believe they've completed their strategic plan, and they're working on a form so organizations can come and apply for some of those funds, whether it's providing funds to help them purchase land, whether it's for rental assistance. But affordable housing is indeed probably the #1 issue we have in the city, whether it's true affordable, meaning income-based, or the affordability of market rate housing. So we are on it. It is top of the agenda every day of the year for us.
And to you, Mary Ellen.
Well, I think housing is one of the many challenges that we have here in Gloucester, and I think that the biggest challenge is for the next generation who wants to stay here, as I'm sure all of you know. It's also a big challenge for our older population who is struggling to maintain their homes here. So my vision would be the result of a conversation with those people that are struggling, with the young people who plan to stay here, with the 20-somethings that are looking for homes here, and with the elderly who want homes. I don't think that we ask the people that are struggling enough what it is that they want and what it is that's holding them back. It's not just about the house itself or the rental ability itself. It's about what are the challenges that allow them to afford those things. What are the challenges that are keeping them from moving forward in their lives? If they want to stay here right out of high school, what are their options? What are their financial options? Do they have good paying jobs around here so that they can actually stay and afford a mortgage or even the rent? In order to solve problems, I think that it takes a lot more than one mind. And it's not even the single mind at the head of the administration. I think that it's important that we include all of the minds that are involved in the process. So rather than have anything ever be just my vision, it should be the vision of all of those who are affected, all of the stakeholders in the system that are looking for housing, providing housing, and in need of housing.
And a 30-second follow-up.
I agree, and that's exactly what we're doing. And that is the purpose of the Affordable Housing Trust, especially on the specific issue of affordable housing. We have a long way to go. We have to have some tough choices about zoning as we move forward. The Comprehensive Planning Initiative, the new master plan, is going to be the key to that as we zoom in on what the vision is for the public, not just me in the mayor's office, but the public, to say what our Gloucester should look like in the next 10 years. And the top of that agenda is going to be housing, as I said, market rate and affordable housing.
Yeah, as I said, this is a complicated issue, and as I've kept saying, it's a complicated issue. And the thing that worries me most is the development. There are, although the first paragraph of the mandate from the state is a very simplistic version of what they're looking for, what's followed by a paragraph are several pages where each noun is specifically defined. And inside of that text are several Easter eggs for developers, and one of them being that you don't have to worry about the affordability of the housing that you're building. And the other is you don't have to worry about the energy efficiency of the housing that you're building, which tells me, which tells me that we don't have to worry about affordable housing because we're giving an open door to development if we change our zoning completely and we're not mindful of what we're doing. So I think those are really important steps to keep in mind as we move forward, to not just change the zoning because we need housing, but to look at why we're changing the zoning and what we allow as a result of it.
And that is a good segue to the second of our housing questions, the MBTA 3A zoning mandate. First, are you in favor of that mandate? And if yes, what is your plan to work with the mandate? And if you are opposed, what is your plan to address the grant revenue shortfalls that would arise from that opposition? Yes.
As I've expressed, I am not in favor of the mandate, and I still, again, want to look at it more carefully. Having read it carefully now, the Easter eggs that I talk about are further into the document, and I think it's really important that I understand them not just at my level, but at the level, again, of several people that will be involved in all this. I think that I've watched enough development in the several places that I've lived around the country to see how zoning changes can really affect the culture and setup of a community. And once you've made a law, or once you've made a change to your zoning, you can say all day long, we're not going to build, we're just changing the zoning, we'll have control. But I can assure you that once the state or the federal government forces you into certain changes, there is a reason for that. And the change will be coming, and you will not have the control that you think you have. And if you haven't seen that, I want you to know that I have firsthand, and it's not pretty. And it's not easy to stop once it starts. You talk about being caught up in legal fees. If you're zoned for something and a builder comes in and says, I want to build, and all of the neighbors say, no, you can't allow that, I don't want that there, the builder will take you to court and tie you up in court and say, well, you're zoned for it, so I can build for it. So there's a lot inside of this that I think still needs to be unpacked. And frankly, everyone in this room has been here longer than me studying it, evidently for the past, so I'm glad that I've caught up as much as I have, but I am under no illusions that I don't have more to learn.
So your first question was, are we in favor of it? I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but as I said at a previous debate, the 3A law is the 3A law. It is a mandate. It is something we do have to do. And I'm going to take the oath in January saying I'm going to uphold the laws of the Commonwealth, including that one. Is it perfect for Gloucester? No, but that's what the planning initiative is about, is to see how we develop zoning amendments that are to the best of our ability, fitting our vision. One thing you also asked about, what do we do about the loss of grants? It was mentioned at the previous debate that we would have to tighten our belts. There were 5 communities who chose not to comply in interim compliance. They had 10% cuts to their housing authority. Tightening our belts would mean, if we had such a cut to our housing authority, 56 people at Curtis Clark, 52 people at Lincoln, 97 at McPherson, 36 at Poplar, 81 at Sheedy, and then 160 families at Riverdale would be feeling the effects of that belt tightening. So we need to do what we can to comply within the best of our ability and make this work for us. It is not something that I think is super terrific, but I do not think that we are going to, I am not going to commit our city to months and months, years and years of litigation that we are going to lose. The Attorney General has made it very clear that there are clear punishments if you do not do this correctly. I talked to the governor about this, told that we need a little more carrot, a lot less stick, but we are going to comply and we are going to make this work for Gloucester. It is a mandate to zone. It is not a mandate to build.
Follow-up.
So in regard to that grant money, I want you to know also that since all of these places are complying so readily, except for these 5 who are fighting it, which includes Manchester and Rockport, that you will be competing heavily for that same grant money that they're using as a stick. And as demographics go, and I can tell you what happened in the health department, we lose a lot of grants because our demographic makeup is not that varied. So if you think that the competition is hard now to get grant money, it's going to be even stiffer. The stick is a guarantee of an application and nothing more. You're not going to get that money just because you've applied for it, and it's really important that you understand that.
This law started with 3 grant opportunities we may not qualify for. When the Attorney General put out her memo in the spring, it was up to 13. I heard recently that it's now up to 16. These are grants we already do apply for and in many cases receive. So we need to prepare ourselves. Belt tightening is not going to do the trick. Looking for other places to squeeze the balloon is not going to do the trick. These things are projects that Gloucester depends on year after year. It's that simple.
And the third housing question.
Yeah.
And this one will go to you, Greg. Airbnbs and other seasonal rentals are becoming an increasingly polarizing issue on Cape Ann. Proponents feel this is a free market and homeowners should have the right to earn supplemental income from their property, while opponents feel it's further cutting away from our affordable housing stock, as well as deteriorating the community of the neighborhoods. What is your position on Airbnbs and other such entities in the community? Do you see them as a threat or an opportunity, or both? And should there be increased oversight?
It is a mixed bag, that's for sure. As I said at a recent forum, not all the Airbnbs are being run by out-of-town developers. A lot of them are our friends and neighbors who are trying to supplement their income. But we should be regulating them to the best of our ability. There was a story on NPR this week. I missed most of it, so I've got to find it online. But there are communities who are looking at things like limiting the number of days or having a maximum number of days you can do it. Councilor Tony Gross attempted to put forward a regulation last year, earlier this year, and got a lot of pushback, but he is working on tightening, sharpening his pencil on that. It would be a function of the city council to actually put forward a regulation on that. I support following up with that, see if we can find something that has a middle ground that is going to, it won't solve the problem. There's just no question about it. But maybe we can start to get a little bit of relief. I think any regulation we put in place would also be grandfathered. There'd be a grandfathering point. So anybody who's already doing it is probably home free. I'm not sure yet, but I'm looking forward to Tony's work. And we do have to take it seriously. It is impacting the availability of year-round units, but I believe we have about 400 registered, and God knows how many unregistered.
So Airbnbs are we live in a free country, so we can't tell people what to do with their houses, but we can regulate some of those things. And there are people all over this country, cities all over this country, that are struggling with Airbnb and the impact that it has on their housing, as well as their hotel business. And there's a lot to be learned from them. We're not the first struggling with this program. We're not going to be the last. And there's regulation being developed, and I think that we should investigate that. It's not always something you want to be first to the gate on when you are shutting down homeowners from having options to bring extra income into their homes, especially if they are buying homes that they can't afford to begin with. If a new young couple buys a home and they are buying it with the intention, which is what my husband and I did when we first bought our home, was our intention was to Airbnb it until we retired and then moved back up here. The thing is a lot of our homes and a lot of the building that's going on is not being done by people who live here year round. And that's the bigger problem to be addressed, is who do we want to be able to live in their homes, and how do we want to allow them to be able to afford them? So if Airbnb is one of the ways, and we can regulate the amount of that happening, then by all means, let's figure that out. But if every investor that comes in is just buying a home or building a home so they can immediately just use it as an investment and not have any commitment to this city as a community member, then I think that's an entirely different conversation as well, and I'd really like to be able to address that.
Follow up.
I don't think there's anything to add. Seems like we're on the same page.
Okay. You don't have to.
Thank you, Greg.
There you go. Okay, and this one, Mary Ellen, will be addressed to you. And it's called Mayor as CEO. One of your main responsibilities, if you are to be elected as mayor, is to be responsible for the fiscal management of the city's budget and personnel. With many competing priorities, including increased wage costs, growing demands to address our aging infrastructure, and management of debt service, how does your experience distinguish you as the most suited candidate for mayor? And with budgetary limitations, how will you prioritize these competing needs? Yes.
Well, fortunately for me, I've had a lot of experience with very large budgets, in the billions of dollars actually with the federal government. So I'm not overly concerned that I'm going to have a difficult time learning about budgeting and money management. My sisters will tell you that from a small child, I would take I'm sorry, I split my lip last night in a hockey game, so I'm having a hard time forming some words, but it was worth every minute. Anyway, with my paper route money, I would divide it up into 6 envelopes, and I would even iron the money to make sure I was budgeting every single dollar and putting it away as it needed to be spent. I supported myself all through college and all through graduate school. Every job that I've ever had, I've been responsible for spending other people's money, whether it's a small company or the taxpayers' money at a federal level. You learn how to spend your money by being responsible, thinking always that it's not your money, it's somebody else's. And I think about every single person in this room, especially my family, who work very hard for every dollar that they make. So when it comes to managing a staff, I've also been responsible for that. Everything from, again, very small staffs to large program and projects for the federal government. At the State Department in Washington, D.C., I was responsible for hundreds of people that, although not direct reports, I had to manage what they did and make sure everything that they did stayed within budget and on time. Very good at this stuff. I've been a CEO of my own company as well as overseeing others, and I have no problem with any of it.
Could you repeat that? Because it
Sure.
One
One of the main responsibilities as mayor is to be responsible for fiscal management of the city's budget and personnel, with many competing priorities, including increased wage. I was playing hockey and increased wage costs, growing demands to address our aging infrastructure, and management of our debt service. How does your experience distinguish you as the most suited candidate for mayor? And with budgetary limitations, how will you prioritize these competing needs?
Well, that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 22 months. And when you're mayor, you realize you have to be Solomon and make these tough choices. You said it yourself, we've had a lot of deferred maintenance over the decades. And we are luckily in a position, since I've been mayor, we've had $23 million of ARPA funds to work with. So we're able to tackle a lot of things. The $3 million that went to road repair. We've got a $200 million sewer project that's breathing down our neck that we've had 40 years of kicking the can down the road. So some of these things rise to the top because they are the important one of the day, the project. We spent a lot of money. We borrow a lot of money, but if you see the projects around town, most of them were underway before I became mayor, and we had to, because of price increases, had to borrow because the projects ran over time and prices spiked. But we've been very smart about it. Investing in trucks, that's a smart thing. The police station project started out as a $12 million project. By the time I got to office, I asked the question, how much is the state paying for this? The answer was zero. So I said, they have a courthouse there. We need them to pay. We got them to chip in $5 million. So we have all of these projects that we have to deal with, but we have to prioritize them and find grant opportunities or partners, such as the court system, to help make these things come to pass, because we cannot keep kicking cans down the road, because eventually our grandkids are going to be pretty upset about that.
Awesome that we got a $23 million windfall. We are spreading that money all over the place, and I can hardly wait to see exactly where it's being spent, where it's been committed to, and what the outcome of it is. And I hope that we get those results soon and all of that information, because that's a lot of money to throw around. And it was at the sole discretion of the mayor. So there's a lot of responsibility on the mayor to spend that money well. One of the things that I've always been a part of in my budgeting is called goal-based budgeting. And what that is you know how much you are going to have based on the goals that you've set for the year. You don't get 100,000, let's just say for the sake of simplicity, every year, let's say your department's budget is $100,000, and then you spend that year trying to spend the $100,000, and if there's $10,000 at the end of the year, you go buy something to make sure that you spend it again. Goal-based budgeting is you set your goals for the year, and then you budget accordingly. And then you're responsible for spending your money according to what you understand are your goals. It's everyone uses it in
Thank you. Your
corporate
time
world.
budget is up.
It's hard to see with all these lights. Sorry. Wave it a little bit more so it can actually see.
And
the great thing about being the mayor or the CEO is you have good people around you who are professionals who've been doing this for decades, and we have a great CEO, a CFO, who knows how to run a city budget. But the ARPA money, $23 million, the first $10 million smartly was put towards this sewer plant that we knew was going to be something that we were going to have to deal with. So I am very happy with the staff we have because they know what they're doing. I set the goals, I set the vision, and they let us know the right way to do it, because no mayor can be the expert at everything.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is the student question. So if Aurelia Harrison is here and wants to ask that question. Okay, accepting on behalf of her is Bob Visnick, and I will ask the question. And it is going first to Greg. And the question is, how do you plan to address the concerns of young people who grew up here that worry they may not be able to afford to live here when they graduate?
That's it? It's not like another 10-part question?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, that is a great question. It's not an easy answer to give, but some of the things I've already addressed in terms of the Affordable Housing Trust, because we have to start figuring out how we can make more housing units, deed-restricted housing units available. It's also creating a pipeline for good paying jobs, like adding the new vocational class for medical assisting that hopefully will be online by next school year. It's things like GMGI that provides a 10-month program so someone can get out and be making $70,000 without having a college education. So it's looking ahead at what we can do to give opportunities for housing and give opportunities for jobs, because it's not just a matter of if they have somewhere to live, they need somewhere to work too. So we are constantly, we've got development running on all cylinders. Is this okay?
Do we
And
have an
we've got
extra couple
the
of
Affordable Housing Trust, and we have our community development constantly looking for ways to bring in programs and indeed grants to help make things better for us. It's going to be a tough slog, but it's going to also take some concentration and commitment, and that's what you're going to get from me for the next 24 months.
Okay, after this question, or maybe even in the middle of it, we're going to do a mic check. Mayoral, are you happy with your mic?
I love my mic.
Oh, good. Okay.
Well, thank you for this question, and thank you to the high school student, because it is exciting to be in a city that is limitless as far as opportunity. Not every person that graduates from school has to go on to college and lift all that debt. So my first advice to those graduating students or students in high school is learn how to manage your money. One of the platforms that I've talked about throughout my campaign has been economic strength for the individual, helping everyone learn how money works and how you go to a bank and get a mortgage or get a loan or use a credit card properly so that you aren't so in debt that you can't, your options are limited. I think one of the biggest challenges of our youth is that they don't understand how quickly you can fall into debt. And we don't use cash anymore, so it's hard to hang on to the idea of what a dollar represents anymore. And if you look at kids, especially even my kids, they had credit cards from when they were very young, but we sat and went over how a credit card works, how interest works, how rent works, and how mortgages work. I would send them spreadsheets as they got into college to make sure they were measuring their money well and handling their money. And I think that's the way to, as you move forward, learn how to afford homes and come back and live here in Gloucester. It's not just about the cost of housing as it is about having alternatives that, that you've been in control of through your whole life.
You still love that mic? You still love that mic? Okay. Right.
No, I would just add that, with a 7-year-old grandson and a 4-year-old granddaughter, obviously I have a long-term outlook on this. And my older daughter was lucky. She was able to buy a house at a private sale before it hit the market, and she's been settled here. My son bought a home here, and he's going to be moving back. But my younger daughter lives in Salem. She makes, decent money, but there's just nothing for her to buy. Forget about what she can afford. There's nothing on the market, really. So again, I've got that personal interest in this, as do most of the people in this room, because either they have kids or grandkids. But this is a nut we have to crack, and I am ready and willing to work my tail off to do it.
The thing is, what they should be worried about is the expense of living in a home or renting is not just in Gloucester, it's everywhere. Everywhere they go, they're going to find this as a challenge. And one of the alternatives I don't think we talk about enough is joining the military and serving our country. There's a great opportunity to learn a skill, to be taken care of, and to commit your life to something larger than yourself. So I would be a big advocate of helping kids understand the value of joining the military and looking at other alternatives than just trying to struggle in our area here.
Mary Ellen, this one's going to you to start. Support for local business. Gloucester's economy is reliant on traditional fishing and maritime economy, arts and culture, as well as a growing bio-life sciences economy. Based on the above criteria, what grade state of its economy? And if you became mayor, what are your specific ideas on improving that grade?
As a teacher, I take it very seriously. So I would give the city, I think, a B minus, because I do think we're making an effort and our economy is struggling, but the minus of that B is because I don't think we're thinking large enough. I don't think that we're looking broad enough for potential new income revenue generators and businesses to come to this city. I have been talking to a lot of people all over the city, and I have heard some terrific ideas for investments and for people who want to bring businesses here, but hesitate because of the bureaucracy and the lack of business-friendly environment that we have. So I would like to see us open the door to business-friendly environments, and when I become mayor, I would like to see us expanding our blue economy and welcoming contracts such as the Department of Defense contracts for the Navy, and that other contracts that use the maritime waterfront and can build it up without us going too going too far away I've completely, sorry, using this blue income. My lip is killing me right now, so I'm sorry.
Have some water.
Yeah, sorry.
And to try to get through, we're going to try to do 3 questions and the closing, so we won't do a follow-up. We'll just plow right ahead. Sure. Gloucester's economy is reliant on traditional fishing and maritime economy, arts and culture, as well as a growing bio-life sciences economy. Based on the above criteria, what grade do you give the city on the state of its economy? And if you become mayor for a second term, what are your specific ideas on improving that grade if you think the grade needs improving?
Right. Well, there's always room for improvement. I mean, if I were to sit here and say we've got an A++, I mean, I'd be, not being very honest. I'd say we're in a B, heading to a B+. We have work to do. The blue economy is a huge part of our city identity. Fishing is not dead; it's different. It is going to continue to be a huge part of our identity as well as our economy for the next 400 years. Life sciences is certainly changed the whole outlook of what Gloucester can be. We have businesses large and small. We've got applied materials. We've got the little mom and pop shops down on Main Street. So we have a very busy economic development department. I just today got an email from a particular business, I don't want to say anything yet, looking to expand into Gloucester. It's a brewery. And I think that is something that would be beneficial. We've got these businesses that are keeping an eye out for Gloucester because of what we have to offer, our location, the fact that we have a tourism industry that brings in extra clients for them, extra customers. So again, busy economic development department and a staff that is ready to work with businesses, help them with the TIF as we did for the cut down on Main Street. And there are a lot of tools in our toolbox that we're going to deploy and have been deploying.
What's that? Since you didn't quite finish, you can have 27 seconds.
To point out, one of the things that I meant to talk about was we have a new company on the waterfront that's a pasta company that actually uses fish sauces. And that company has 40 employees. 40 people got jobs here in Gloucester. And Applied Materials is another large employer here in Gloucester. And we never hear about that or this pasta company. So if we're going to attract businesses, I think it's really important that everyone in the city knows about the businesses that we have and that we continue to support them.
Okay. In fairness, I'll give you a follow-up, Greg, as well.
We did just mention applied materials, by the way.
There we go. Okay. Tax classification. And this will start with Greg. Gloucester's business base as a share of the overall tax base has decreased an alarming 30% over the past 25 years, from 15% to less than 10%, with 1/3 of this decline happening within the past decade. Are you in favor of eliminating the CIP tax rate differential this year? And explain.
No, it's very close now, and if we go down to parity, we cannot go back the other way. I think we're at the sweet spot right now. Unlike other communities, Danvers or Saugus, who have a huge commercial tax base, we don't. As you just mentioned, we're down to about 10% or 15%. That means there's more of a burden. The closer we get to parity, that's more of the burden on the homeowner. So I do not support going down any further. I think the city council over the years, when I was there, we were starting to get closer and closer. It was much further apart, but we are where I think we need to be at this point. It's not deterring businesses from setting up shop here. It's not killing businesses that are here. I think that we are in the right place, and Gloucester is ready to work with our businesses in other ways. We mentioned earlier the bid and other grant programs that are going to provide signage and other things to point people towards businesses. But as far as tax classification, I don't think we have any more room to move.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I think it goes back to, again, increasing commercial revenue services that we have in this city. Getting taxes from somebody other than the property owner would be imperative. I just think that we continue to put the burden in the same place over and over again. And if we would just concentrate more on bringing businesses to Gloucester and supporting the businesses that are here, then other businesses will come because they will see we're an environment that is business friendly. I'm not in favor of constantly using huge incentives, tax incentives especially, to attract them, because I think that leads us down a road that isn't necessarily always positive. We make lots of deals and we don't seem to ever follow through on the things that would have benefited us all the way to the end. And I'd like to see us be a little bit more cognizant of, hey, this is the deal we made with you. What are you bringing back on your end? Not just come here and take and take and take and not give anything back.
Okay, we're down to our final question, and we will start with you, Mary Ellen. As a result of climate change, we continue to experience increased threats to our city. What are some of your specific priorities for the city to address climate change and increase our resiliency? And as mayor, would you commit to expanding city staffing to seek out federal and state funding and implement high-priority climate mitigation and adaptation projects?
As I think I've said a number of times, thank you for that question, but I am not in favor of constantly beholding ourselves to state and federal grants for climate mitigation. There are cities all around us, like Ipswich, that are doing a great job of climate mitigation efforts that are actually based with the residents, whether it's planting along waterways to retain those seawalls that they have and the property that they have, to not develop more. If we're so in favor of climate change, please help me to understand why we continue to develop more, which is energy sucking buildings and cars. We're bringing more people to this very small island, which means we're using a lot more of our resources that we have. We struggled last year with water shortages. I don't want to see us go through that again. I think that climate change is best managed by population management and by consumer management. If everyone, again, I know it seems like a very small effort to take control of what you do as a citizen of the world, take control of how you use the limited resources that we have. Every little bit matters, and as a city, taking responsible stances without beholding ourselves to larger entities that will then have a say in how we are managed going forward is a better way to go.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, I'm just a bit befuddled about this constant grants bad, just tighten the belt good. We have hired a sustainability coordinator. That's how seriously we're taking it in my administration. I promised that when I ran last election, and we delivered on it. And that position has more than paid for itself with things like the program to help to boost people to get into mass save and to have audits done, to look at mini splits, heat pumps for our fire stations. We're looking ahead to putting electric car charging stations throughout downtown. It is a serious problem, and we cannot go alone. If we squeeze the balloon, another seawall, like we have over at the sewer plant and at the high school, that's several $1 million. So where do we take it from? Do we just say, okay, let's cut the school budget, let's cut the fire budget? When grants are available, it's not a matter of being beholden, it's a matter of being smart. These programs are put in place, and they don't all have strings attached that are going to strangle us. They solve a problem or work toward a problem. So Gloucester is taking climate change seriously, whether you think it's caused by a higher power or whether you think it's man-made. It is out there, it is undeniable, and we are taking action, and we're going to continue taking action.
It's time for our closing statements, and I'll give you both a moment to prepare. And as I understand the coin flip, Greg, you're going first, and Mary Ellen, you're going to close up the evening. Is that correct? Okay. You take a few minutes or moments, and whenever you're ready,
I'm
you may
ready.
begin.
So I'm running for re-election because the future of our city is on the line, and decisions made at City Hall have an impact on real people living real lives throughout the city of Gloucester. So you can't run a city on generalization or speculation or making promises that can't be kept, and you can't run a city on conviction without substance. I'm lucky. I've lived here, my family has lived here for 6 generations. I've lived here as a son, I've lived here as a father, and now as a grandfather. And I want everything that Gloucester has to offer to be here and be attainable for my kids, your kids, and their kids. I want us to keep thriving and evolving, but while staying true to our identity as a fishing port and as a people who care about what's best for the best place on earth. So under my leadership as mayor, our focus has been and will always be on the long-term wins. Since taking office, I've increased the annual road budget by nearly 500%, invested $2.7 million into our school system, launched a beach parking reservation system to manage gridlock, spearheaded an ordinance that will provide free parking for veterans, also brought about the renovations at Stage 4 Park and the creation of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, all while retaining our AA bond rating. So in closing, I ask you for your vote. Help me continue this work. Help me keep our foot on the gas. Help turn this great start into a better future. So on November 7th, please remember to vote, and please vote Virga.
So I'm used to lecturing from my feet, so since I can have a closing statement, I thought I'd stand up for one reason and one reason only. Because when you honor somebody, you stand up to them. I honor each and every one of the people that I've met during this campaign. It has truly been a pleasure getting to know you. I've talked individually to over 1,000 of you, and I've learned your stories and heard your concerns and learned not just what you want, but what you see for the future of this city. I'm incredibly at the opportunity to serve you going forward. It has been my pleasure to be a part of every bit of, and the generalities that we're constantly speaking of, so that you know, I do have a platform statement, and I've had it all along. It is being provided for you this evening. If any of you listening from home would like a copy of it, it will be posted on the website, which is roseformayor.com. It gives every specific idea that I have for going forward, ideas that are too complicated and too, there's just too much to them to basically say it in 90 seconds or 30 seconds rebuttal. I think that a lot of this stuff takes a lot more thought you're allowed to talk about in a debate. But I do want you to that I've enjoyed this, that it has been my pleasure to serve you, to come home after being away and learning what I've learned. And I salute every single one of you for your gracious behavior tonight and through all of the debates. Vote for Mary Ellen on November 7th, and I sure do appreciate it. Thank you.
And I honor and salute both of you. Gloucester is fortunate to have such great candidates. And thank you, and I believe we're even on time. And I'll need to borrow this quarter for one more debate, if I may.